Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You wanna unbiased opinion, getting straight from the chest. Not a bit accomplice or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge. They don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like. Wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because their agendas are disguised. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifting. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hello, everyone. It is Pam Esquire, also known as Your Law Intellect. Thank you so much for joining me on this evening. I was supposed to come on at 6 o'clock, but you guys know you have to be early because I probably will be early. But we give all the late folks or the on-time folks time to come in, have a seat, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel if they have not done so already. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so whenever I go live, you guys will know. See, the difference that it is over here, unfortunately, it's very rare that I can prearrange for when I'm going to go live because it's based on the docket. Okay, we cover cases, and when we cover these cases, you have these documents that get filed left and right. And I don't know these attorneys, so they can't say, hey, Pam Esquire, we're about to file something. You might want to set your live up. So, unfortunately, the bell is very, very important for you to hit in order to know when I go live. Also, follow me on Instagram, Pam.esq, because I do put it in my stories when I'm about to go live. So, that's another way. If you see the stories, 9 times out of 10, what I'm posting is that I am about to go live. I hope you guys have had a fantabulous vacation for those of you that have been vacationing. And hope you guys enjoyed family and friends and all of that good stuff. And yeah, so we can be about to get into it. Hey, Granny the Great. Hey, Fine 9J, Sweet P 724. My Bell, Nestos Pen, Sylvia, Jess Nikki, The Gold Experience, HB5, them folks, top of the boat. Thank you guys so much. Jess Nikki, Star Bell, Miss HLS. Goodness, thank you guys so much for coming in. I don't know why this is so blurry. I'm using the camera on my laptop. Old Man Johnson's Farm, D-Dub, always the lady, mom's the boss. It's me, Beverly Pierce. It's so funny though when you guys do follow me on Instagram because your names are never like they are on YouTube. Like never. So I never know who anybody is. But anyway, please make sure you follow me. I'm also on TikTok. Not as often as I should be. But I also have TikTok, which is the same name. So just go over there on TikTok and follow me as well. I'm more of a lurker on TikTok than a poster. But I'm going to try to do better for 2025. I'm going to write that down because, when you write things down, that makes it official. So maybe I'll write that down and then I'll be on TikTok a little bit more. What we going to talk about? Tracy said the court's been busy for Christmas. Yeah, with the celebrities, honey, because the courts over here in Michigan, they let you know. Please don't schedule any hearing dates around this time because we have Thanksgiving is Wednesday and Thursday. Oh, I'm gonna take off that whole week. Christmas is Wednesday and Christmas Eve is Tuesday. Oh, we're taking off the whole week. So today I got up and I was like, I had some things that I had to do, but as far as communicating with other people, child, everybody, I think they all on vacation till next year, till next week. So yeah, a lot of unreturned emails where they like, girl, we are vacationing. I've had attorney friends got engaged over the holidays. It's just a lot going on. I guess, I don't like getting behind. So a couple of days off is cool for me. Then I got to get back to the get back. You said, I guess I'm a stalker now. I've been looking for you all week. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that, Granny the Great. No, unfortunately, like I said, you are going to have to look because I can't say, oh, I'm coming in on Monday at 7 o'clock because whenever it drops, then I might have to just stop whatever I'm doing and go live. And that's kind of how this rolls over here, except for the membership. If you're in the membership, most of the time I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go live about this. I'll let you guys know in advance because that's usually either a case that I'm probably not talking about on here or a follow-up case that I just don't want to keep talking about out here on the main platform. So there's that. But yeah, so the last time that we were together, we were all gathered together for our office meeting here. We were talking about Jay-Z, and again, he was accused. It was a lawsuit that was filed against Sean Diddy and him, and he was accused of doing some essay type things to a young lady who claimed she was 13 years old. Well, since that filing, which was a few weeks ago, Jay-Z and his attorneys and everybody has basically fought in the court of public opinion. There has been a press conference at Rock Nation headquarters where there was a whole PowerPoint presentation with photos and timelines and Excel sheets and all of that was occurring because it seemed like the court of public opinion was very, very important. Also, what he did was it was a lot of filings that occurred because what happened was there was a lot of inconsistencies. The alleged victim did an interview, although she remained anonymous, and it was clear inconsistencies. However, one of the things that she said was, regardless to the inconsistencies, she held fast that this happened to her. That alone is enough for her to at least beat any type of motion to dismiss on its face on a 12, what we call a 12B motion in federal court, is if there's a plausibility to it. That alone may be able to get her to where she has to go until, later on when you do discovery and all of that. So her attorney said, listen, my client said that she is willing to take a lie detector test. And I've never had a client say that. So she got to be telling the truth of what she says. Yes, it was some years ago. Therefore, it's a lot of fogginess. It's a lot of memory lapses. However, I believe my client. Okay. So then it turned into every other day, it seemed like the attorney for the accuser was getting hit with lawsuits too. So Tony Busby, who had the 1-800 number, 1-800, call him, because if you've been assaulted by Diddy, he, who is also likes to be up in the media, let's be clear, all of a sudden he got sued by former clients. And then it came out that allegedly there was investigators that were hired by Jay-Z's team, according to him, that were trying to get these clients to acknowledge that they were unhappy with their representation, or they were, I guess, making it seem like they were apprising these past clients of Busby that perhaps you didn't get all your money. Then you had a woman who was represented by Busby who is alleging that she was messing with him and she caught some type of STD from him. Okay. So there's a lot going on. Now, so after a while of the back and forth, it was really like tennis. I think a lot of us was getting tired. So we were like, okay, the lawyers can't stand each other. We got, Jay-Z pissed off because you're messing with his family. And now he got to sit down and explain it to his daughter. So every day something was being filed. And so what Jay-Z was trying to do was he wants this young lady who is anonymous. He wanted her to have to say who she is. Also was telling Busby, listen, I'm going to file for sanctions because this is not legit. You did not vet her, and decided to tell the court everything they were doing. Okay, what he planned on doing. Well, the court responded and was like, listen, I'm going to allow her to remain anonymous for now. Basically giving the heads up that eventually she's probably going to have to say who she is. And then like went in on, in a professional, legal, shady way, kind of told Jay-Z's attorney, like, yeah, all of this not following my rules and practice, how you're filing this almost every other day, this lawsuit was just filed where you was added in and you done pretty much, file something every day almost since then. It hasn't been every day, but it's been a lot. How about you don't do that no more? You're not doing your client any favors. And in fact, you're doing your client a disservice by doing this, and you are not following these rules. So based on this activity and behavior, I would surmise that what they were trying to do again was it was a court of public opinion issue that they were trying to do. They were trying to almost pressure, is what it feels like. This is my opinion. Busby to say, all right. Like the pressure was just so high that he would just dismiss the case, and that would be based on, or not dismiss it against Diddy, but at least against Jay-Z. But I don't see how you can dismiss it against Jay-Z without doing it against Diddy. But nonetheless, I think that what the hope was, what plan A was, is that if we can get it dismissed because there's no merit to it, that looks way better than if you get it dismissed off of technicality, as some of you guys say. Really, it's the procedures and it's the way the laws are, but some people call it a technicality. I've seen in the chat, because it's not based on the substantive facts of it all. It wasn't tried on the substantive, and you weren't found not liable on the substantive claims. However, it's because procedurally something is inaccurate, or you have statute of limitation issues, or you get a default. Some people look at that like, well, that don't really mean you won, even though, you really did win. But it's the difference between you winning because a jury says, no, I got this information and you're not liable for nothing this lady is saying that you did. So I think their initial plan was, let's try to get rid of this case and let the public know, because he does have a brand. Let's have the public know so they're aware that this lady is not being honest. So it looks like you beat this case based on this whole allegation is not true. Well, because the judge kind of went off a little bit, I kind of figured that there was going to be a response that was going to happen, and there was. However, it's in a whole different, the demeanor has totally shifted and changed. Okay. What was filed today is totally different. Yes, Denise, the judge said, this my courtroom. I run my courtroom the way I run my courtroom. You can go over there to Rock Nation and you can be the CEO over there. But Your Honor, I am the CEO of this here courtroom, and I'm going to need you to study the rules and the practices of this courtroom. Study these local rules, all right? Because all of this stuff you doing in the media, this gamesmanship, yeah, that's not going to work for me. So you follow the rules and we're going to be just fine, because you're not doing your client any services by doing this. And people talked about it throughout social media. So that letter that the judge filed, or that order that the judge filed rather, was the captions was basically, you got dragged by the judge. You know what I'm saying? Like the captions, like it wasn't even really clickbait. It just depended on how you phrased it. But yeah, the judge was letting them know, like, this is my courtroom. You may be popular out there and you can do whatever you want to do out there. That's cool. But here, yeah, it's a no for me. Thank you so much, Jackson Tabasco said, Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. We had another super chat say, Happy New Year's. That's from Early Morning Vibes. Thank you so very much for that super chat. Auntie Natty said, Happy New Year. Shay B said, thank you, Pam, for keeping us informed. Of course. Thank you for being a member for 6 months, Granny the Great. I appreciate that. T. Rain said, beautiful blessings, sis. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a member for 10 months. I appreciate the support. So that is basically the background for you guys to know. So that's the previous video we did. Was that on Thursday? And so we have a filing on today. A real paralegal said, when I saw those letters, but that's what I need to do, put a real lawyer, honey. That's what I need to put on there, because I feel like I'm explaining myself all the time. You said, when I saw those letter briefs, I was wondering how they were getting away with that. We don't even really do letter briefs here. The first time I ever saw that was in New York. So it's probably some local rules that they allow them to do that before they file, and then they get scheduling orders on when things are due and all of that. But yeah, it's very interesting. So let's get it. Let's get it. Make sure you hit the like button. I see you guys piling on in here. Make sure you hit that like button on your way in. Let's see. So this was the letter that was filed on today, December 30th of 2024. So y'all thought y'all wasn't going to hear from Jay-Z until the new year. He was like, yeah, nah. Yeah, okay, Judge. You know, this your courtroom. You got one on me. But now I'm just going to do it. I'm going to follow the rules, though. All right, I hear you, Judge. I'm going to follow the rules. So he addresses it to the judge and says, we write on behalf of defendant Sean Carter, pursuant to Rule 3, Sub A, Sub 2 of your Honor's individual practices in civil cases, to inform the court. So look, he started out quoting the rules. He was like, I heard you, Judge. I'm writing pursuant to your Honor's individual practices in civil cases, okay? To inform the court that Mr. Carter seeks to file a motion pursuant to the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 12B6 to dismiss the first amended complaint. In accordance with the rule, look at all this authority. Look at all. According with your Honor's rules, on December 19th, Mr. Carter sent a letter to plaintiff setting forth the basis for this motion and advising that Mr. Carter would file this pre-motion letter if plaintiff chose to stand on her FAC, which is First Amendment Complaint, is what FAC is. So listen, what he's saying is, on the 19th, he did send a letter according to the rules. So I think he's kind of letting the court know, I did follow your rules, Judge, okay, when it came to that. So, because that was mentioned about the 5 days and all of that in the order, that you're supposed to give them 5 days to respond if you plan on filing a motion and all of that. So then it goes on to say, plaintiff was required but failed to respond to Mr. Carter's letter within 5 business days. So the plaintiff is still breaking the rules, Judge, because he was required but failed to respond to Mr. Carter's letter within 5 business days. By December 27th, Mr. Carter interprets plaintiff's silence as confirmation that she will stand on the FAC as pledged. So she's going to stand on her complaint. Accordingly, Mr. Carter submits this pre-motion letter concerning his anticipated motion to dismiss, which will raise the following argument. So he's letting the court know he plans on filing a motion to dismiss. So he says, first of all, Your Honor, plaintiff cannot recover for her sole claim under the Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, also known as the GMV law, as a matter of law because the statute does not have retroactive effect. So this statute does not have retroactive effect, meaning it doesn't go back. It only passes prospective, which means it goes forward. So plaintiff asserts a violation of the GMV law for conduct that purportedly occurred in September of 2000. So she's saying that all of this stuff happened in September 2000, but this law was not enacted until December 19th of 2000. So basically, you were about 3 months too late because this is not retroactive. So 3 months after the FAC claim the conduct occurred and cannot apply retroactively to create a cause of action unavailable to plaintiff at the time in question. So that's in Lewis v. Niederhofer. Let me pull that case up. So he's basically saying that you can't use this statute because your claim does not. Okay, this is Lewis. So what happened in this case that he cited? Let's go to the discussion. Let's see here what had happened. Barbara Lewis, this is what happened in this case, brings this pro se, so she represented herself, action against Victor Niederhofer, okay, pursuant to the Gender Motivated Violence Law or the Adult Survivors Act. The complaint describes disturbing conduct, including sexual harassment, sexual abuse, and rape that Ms. Lewis alleges occurred during her employment at Mr. Niederhofer's investment firm between 1974 and 1979. The court has diversity jurisdiction of this action. The case is before the court on Mr. Niederhofer's motion to dismiss the complaint. So she filed this against Mr. Niederhofer, who she's alleging did all this stuff to him, and he responded with the motion to dismiss. The court has carefully considered the submissions of the parties in connection with the instant motion, and for the following reasons, the motion to dismiss is granted. So this is the case that they're citing as authority as to why this case in the Jay-Z situation should be dismissed. So let's get to the discussion. In order to survive, for those of you that want to know, when a motion to dismiss pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedures 12b-6, a complaint must plead, quote, enough facts to state a claim to relief that is plausible on its face. So that's the standard. You have to at least plead enough facts to state a claim that is plausible on its face. So it's not based on you attaching exhibits. That's the wrong motion. This is literally based on the complaint itself as filed. A pro se complaint must be construed liberally to raise the strongest arguments it suggests. So they acknowledge that you're pro se, so you may not be able to articulate it well. However, the court is supposed to try to find the strong arguments if they are in there and not just dismiss the case when it comes to a pro se or a person representing themselves. Ms. Lewis alleges that from 1974 through 1979, Mr. Niederhofer engaged in alarming conduct that violated the GMV law. However, the GMV law was not passed until 2000. As the New York Courts of Appeal has made clear, retroactive operation is not favored by courts, and statutes will not be given such construction unless the language expressly or by necessary implication requires it. This is deeply rooted presumption against retroactivity is based on elementary consideration of fairness. Applying this fundamental canon of statutory construction, the only court to have considered the retroactive application of the GMV law in this context concluded that the law, which creates a new substantive cause of action and does not provide for retroactive or immediate effectiveness, is not the type of statute that would be given retroactive effect. The fact that the GMV law was amended in 2022 to reopen the statute of limitation for GMV law claims for a 2-year period running from 6 months after September 1st, 2022 until 2 years and 6 months from the same date does not alter this conclusion. In Adams, the court declined to give the GMV law retroactive effect, even though plaintiff's claim fell within the law's 7-year statute of limitation. All of Ms. Lewis's troubling allegations against Mr. Niederhofer are based on events that allegedly occurred between 1974 and 1979, before the GMV law was passed. Because the court cannot apply the GMV law retroactively, the complaint fails to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. For the same reason, Ms. Lewis is also denied leave to amend the complaint. For the foregoing reasons, the motion to dismiss the complaint is granted. The memo order resolves the docket number. So basically, that's the case that he cited, and he's saying that the allegations were in 2000, September 2000. What did he say? Was it the allegations were in September of 2000, and then the law didn't pass till December? So he's saying you should be precluded because it's not retroactive, and so you have no cause of action, and it should be dismissed. That is the first argument. The second argument that was raised, see, it was really cut, clean. Just, didn't have all of the extras in it. No salaciousness. 2-pager, letting you know this is just the basic law and why it should be dismissed. Second, even if the GMV law had retroactive effect, so even if it did have retroactive effect, it does not prevail because plaintiff must show that the conduct was committed within New York City. The FAC alleges that the violative conduct is forced sexual conduct, but does not assert that this conduct occurred in New York City, nor could it. According to the FAC, plaintiff was driven from Radio City Music Hall to a, quote, large white residence with a gated U-shaped driveway, a driveway that took 20 minutes. This is where the alleged assault took place. The FAC's description of the residence in question, however, combined with public records, confirms that any such residence, to that extent it existed at the time, would have been located outside the territorial boundaries of New York City. As such, assuming the well-pled factual allegations are true, they are not. They cannot plausibly state a claim for relief. So even if it was retroactive, he is arguing that the incident, they can't even prove that the incident even happened in New York, within New York City, which is part of what they have to show under this statute. And so because you can't even prove that it was even in the city, it should be dismissed for that purpose as well, if the court is not inclined to deal with the retroactivity argument. So then there is a third argument. Denise, thank you so much for the super chat. She said, because she works hard for the money, honey, hardest working lawyer on YouTube. Thank you. I appreciate that compliment. All right. So the last reason why they're saying it should be dismissed is any viable GMV, that's a gender motivated violence law claim, is time barred under New York's Child Victims Act. Thank y'all so much. Yay! We met our goal. Thank you guys so much for meeting our super chat goals. I appreciate it. The third argument is any viable GMV law claims is time bar under the New York Child Victim Act, which preempts plaintiffs' GMV law claim. The FAC alleges the conduct occurred 20 plus years ago, well outside the CVA statute of limitation. Though the CVA was amended in 2019 to create a 2-year and 6-month revival period, that period expired August 2021. Plaintiff seeks to plead around the statute of limitation issue by asserting a claim under the GMV law, which contains a longer revival period. Courts in this district, however, have recognized that the CVA's revival period preempts the GMV's law, overlapping an extended one. So basically, because you said you was 13, it really falls under the New York's Child Victim Act, right? And so because that expired, you're trying to do it under the Gender Motivated Act. However, the Child Victims Act would be the proper one because it was an alleged, she said she was 13, and it trumps or preempts the GMV law. So you have to go by the Child Victim Act. And that has expired as well. So they're saying that expired no later than August of 2021, meaning you should have filed your claim by August of 2021. You couldn't have filed it a month ago. And so let me see this case they're talking about on this child thing. And so those are the three cut and clear. This is probably the most clean motion that we've seen, this motion letter that we've seen since the filings, of which they're just straight to the point. He's straight to the point. So maybe the judge did her thing and he picked up what she was putting down in that order, because he just said, listen, judge, this is what I gave him. This is what my arguments are, and that's it. So he quoted Bellino v. Tallarico, and let's see what that case is about since we're over here researching. Plaintiff Jean Bellino here claims that she was actually assaulted by the defendant in 1975 when she was 17 years of age. She seeks damages here exclusively under New York City's Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. So she did the same thing where she sought some type of relief under the Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Act, which is what Busby has filed all of his claims under, like one count of this act, which was enacted and first became effective in the year 2000. The matter is before the court on the defendant's Rule 12b-6 motion to dismiss the complaint, a motion to which plaintiff has filed no response. The motion is disposed of readily. So she filed this complaint, and then I wonder, it didn't say she represent herself. Let's see. She filed this complaint. They filed a motion to dismiss, and it doesn't sound like she responded to their motion to dismiss. So the judge said the VGMVPA created a cause of action for damages for, quote, any person claiming to be injured by a party who commits, directs, enables, participates in, or conspires in the commission of a crime of violence motivated by gender. It imposed a time limit within which to bring such an action of 7 years after the alleged crime of violence motivated by gender occurred, unless the plaintiff then was unable to sue within the 7-year period, in which case the time limit is 9 years after the inability to commence the action ceases. This action, however, would be untimely under either of these periods, whether plaintiff relies upon additional provision of the statute that provides, notwithstanding any provision of law that imposes a period of limitation to the contrary, any civil claim or cause of action brought under this chapter that is barred because the applicable period of limitation has expired is hereby revived and may be commenced not earlier than 6 months after and not later than 2 years and 6 months after September 1st, 2022. So it's still a few months left on this gender motivated, looks like, because they revived it. So this would be 2 years and 6 months. Okay. There are at least two problems with her argument. First, the elements of a violation of the VGMVPA, the chapter referred to in the quoted paragraph of the statute, are: 1, the alleged act constituted a misdemeanor or felony against the plaintiff. 2, presenting a serious risk of physical injury. 3, that was perpetrated because of plaintiff's gender. And 4, in part because of animus against the plaintiff's gender. And 5, resulted in injury. The complaint in this case does not allege conduct presenting a serious risk of physical injury and therefore fails to state a legally sufficient claim under the VGMVPA. That don't help Jay-Z right there. I don't see where that applies. So let's move on. Second, and independent of the prior point, the limitation provision of the VGMVPA is preempted. So this is the part he used. Is preempted by the state's adoption of the Child Victim Act and the Adult Survivors Act substantially for the reasons set forth by the defendant. So because she was 17 in this case, the proper statute, because it's a Child Victim Act, that's what you should have did it under, because you weren't an adult when it happened. And so that statute has expired, and therefore, because you have to do it based on that statute, is what it sounds like. Accordingly, defendant's motion to dismiss the complaint is granted, and you can't amend your complaint. So that's what they're using as their third reason, and this is the case that they are relying on, and that is that. So what do you guys think about? Do you think that if he gets it dismissed based on statute of limitation issues, that people will still be looking side-eyed or something? Thanks, Pam. Happy New Year. Thank you, Forever T. I appreciate that. What do you guys think? Because this is what it sounds like to me. It honestly feels like his plan A, when they had their big meeting, I'm acting like I was there. Listen, we cannot let this tarnish your brand and your name. So we want to make sure we get the public on our side. And maybe some of the pressure will make him say, you know what, maybe it wasn't Jay-Z and maybe something else is going on. So if we could make it seem like, or make it where the reasoning, not even seem like, because it could be, obviously it could be that she is not telling the truth. But if the reasoning why it was dismissed is premised on the fact that she was not telling the truth, that make me look better. But now the judge then basically went in. She gets to remain anonymous, which means that now you're going through litigation. He's going to have to answer the complaint, obviously. He has to respond. And if she doesn't dismiss it off initially, that means you got to go through litigation, which means Jay-Z going to have to sit for a deposition. She going to have to sit for a deposition. Like, it goes through the litigation process. So now he's like, oh, plan B is we got to just try to get it dismissed because this statute has expired, and so she doesn't have a cause of action pursuant to the law. What y'all think about that? Sylvia said, yeah, but it should also be dismissed for Diddy too, if it's true. I agree, because the stuff that he mentioned would have been global to everybody in that complaint, because you're talking about the house they said wasn't there. They said the Jumbotron wasn't out there. All of that stuff would still be linked. All of you guys are accused of doing the same thing at the same time. So it's no way, regardless to whether Jay-Z gets out of it, those facts still are going to remain, that there was no permit for a Jumbotron. Like, there was no this, there was no that. Now, what if he amends this complaint and he changes the dates? But see, the issue with that, because I've seen some YouTubers trying to do that and try to say, well, it's 2003 and I got proof they had the Jumbotron and this person performed, and they trying to fit it in the box. There's definitely a difference between 13 and 16. So now you're talking about a 16-year-old. So I wonder how that would, go if he says, well, I'm going to do a second amended complaint and I'm just going to change the date. He does that to 2003. That would have been after the statute, right, was enacted. Lesson said, it seems like Spiro was trying not to attack the victim initially, but they now have to fight differently. Yeah, because at first he was making it seem like there may be some victims. He definitely was not windmilling for Diddy at all. He separated himself from Diddy as much as possible. They were not friends. I mean, they knew each other because of business. And then everybody came up with the clips where they were saying, this is my brother, and I love my brother, and my brother, and my brother, my brother, my brother. And they was like, oh, they were just doing that. They was just doing that for show. They really were just doing business together. That was it. He was definitely separating himself. And then he made comments like, oh, this takes away from real victims and all of that, which makes you, how I interpret it is, it made it seem like there were some victims when it came to it. But it just wasn't him. It may be that other guy. So, yeah, he definitely separated himself. But I agree. There is no way that they can dismiss it based off of him and not dismiss it based off of Diddy too. So if his gets dismissed, be it procedural or because of the statute of limitations, statutorily wise, because you just aren't within the statute of limitation and don't fit within that time frame, then Diddy's people, all they got to do is join in on the motion for him. That's all they got to do. I don't know if they responded already. They might have responded to it because they filed plenty of motions in this case. Let me see. Because I haven't even paid Diddy them no attention in this case. So, but they've responded. They've gotten some dismissals, not for Diddy personally, but they've gotten it for like Bad Boy Record and all of that. But I haven't even tried. I've been so interested in Jay-Z's, I forgot all about, Diddy is in this case, y'all. Let me see what Diddy them doing. Let me see. Because all the last filing's been about, so let me see. Notice. Motion for missile. What is that? Motion for leave to proceed anonymously. Motion, member of the law, declaration also attorney regarding the fish. Yeah, no. He ain't did nothing in this case. Yeah, he hasn't. Diddy and them haven't done anything. So yeah, they can just go ahead when he files his motion to dismiss. I would be like, I'd like to join that as well for Mr. Combs and all of the other defendants, because it all supposedly happened on the same day. So if that date does not work for him, it's not going to work for Diddy and any of these companies. I thought there was, there's a time frame. And so the statutes are so crazy. And because so many people have been using them lately, the Court of Appeals is just now starting to interpret these statutes and what they mean. So what it sounds like is the gender motivated, that act was enacted back in 2000, right? Like December of 2000. They have certain criteria where you have 7 years in order to file within those 7 years. And you can look back to 1970, 1960, but you had to do it between 2000 and 2007. But then they had situations where you can do 2008. So they like, okay, well, if for some reason you couldn't do it in the 7 years, we're going to give you an extra year. So then it was 2008. Then in 2022? 2022, they amended it, and then they did a look back. So it must have been a lot going on in New York, because they're somehow making it where now, and it may be the Me Too movement, where now they're allowing women, no matter, that's why you're talking about stuff from 1975. Clearly, there ain't no evidence that you can even go to. We didn't even have social media like that back then at all. So now you can go back to 1975 and say, this happened to me, which defeats the point of the statute of limitation, because claims do get stale, meaning you cannot properly investigate, meaning you don't have, they only keep cameras in a store, even that, buildings may have been the only ones that really had stores before we had them on our homes, and they only keep them for 30 days and then they tape over them. Like, things get lost. People shred documents after so long. Like, attorneys only got to keep documents for 7 years here before you can shred them and get rid of them. So there's limitations on when you can keep documents. So that's why you have the statute of limitation, because it becomes more difficult to fight a case. And so that's the purpose. So it must have just been a whole bunch of running amok over there in New York. And so they decided to revive some of these statutes, giving you even more time. So in 2022, they amended again, and they gave you another look back. That sounds like you have until, they said, 2 years and 6 months. So maybe like into April or something of next year. And so that's what all these people are filing under. That Busby is filing it. So Dier said it's very difficult to prove certain things after so long. It is. And I can vouch for that, because that's what I do, is wrongful convictions, and everybody is usually 17 years on up in prison. So if you're trying to investigate, you have witnesses that die, you have attorneys that die, you don't really have the documentation. They shred documents. We have files that are missing, in our courts. We have transcriptions that never happened. So now the court reported they only keep them for 3-4 years. You don't have that. So everything becomes more stale as time goes on. And that's the purpose of the statute of limitation. So, but apparently, again, New York must have just been having so much going on, or perhaps I would be curious to see what prompted all these statutes that came out. Like, I understand with the children, what started happening with the Catholic Church, they started doing those type of statutes in a variety of states. But like for them to like make it and add 2-3 statutes and do look backs and all of that type stuff in New York, I wonder what prompted that to happen. My understanding was it was a lot of women that were mistreated in prisons there, in like Rikers, and because of that, people were getting pregnant. They were like getting like all types. They had the craziest stories on how these guards were doing them. And so that's how the flood of those cases, most of them came from people that were in women that were in prison, actually. So it was a way for them. But then you had where now these people are using it for celebrities. And so that's why we're hearing about it more. But yeah, it was a lot of filings under this statute because a lot of it had to do with the criminal justice system there in New York. But y'all hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. You said them churches in New York caused that. It was a lot going on in Catholic churches. I seen a few things in the Kojic churches. I seen a few things going on. I mean, I guess in every organization, people have come forward and said that somehow, you know, that they were abused when they were kids. With in Catholic churches, it was the altar boys, and they were saying they were abused by the different priests. And then what they would do is they would shuffle them around in different churches. So then now you just move them to another church to basically affect other people. And so you had a lot of people that came forward. So a lot of Catholic churches have closed down. Yep, the Boy Scout. I seen a documentary on them. A lot of people came forward. It was the shame that a lot of, especially young boys, it's a lot of shame. It's shame in women too, but in boys, it was like, especially if you had another male do it, and then they end up having difficulties or confusion with their sexuality. It's a lot how people are going to look at them because it occurred. So they were the least likely to come forward. So yep, it came out for them too. As we see, there's John Doe's that's coming out in these instances making allegations. So Jay-Z can take a paternity test to see if the kid is his and if his mother was underage at the time of her pregnancy. How was that? What is that gonna, what do you think that's gonna do? If Jay-Z, let's just think about this. If Jay-Z takes this paternity test and it is determined that he is the father, what is he gonna do something on, but try to do something on behalf of the estate? Is that what's happening? Like, what is his end game, I guess? Because he keeps saying he don't want anything from him, but it gotta be something that's pushing you to try to figure out if that's your daddy. Because I did look, and the mom and everything is sealed. He ain't lying about that, because I looked, I want to say in federal court, there was a case in New Jersey with this young man, and the mom was trying to get like pro se. She was trying to get, that's the only thing you saw was that she filed claims and she was trying to get, I guess, some type of paternity. And she was like trying to get waivers of fees or something. I think is all I saw, but nothing else was on that. And then I want to say in New Jersey, something was filed in the state court and it's sealed. Like that mug is like restricted. And I was like, dang. So I don't know. When he said that they filed some lawsuits and they've been stopped, it seems like they have filed some lawsuits. And then I don't know if Jay-Z was a part of it. I don't know any of that. I don't know what the outcome was because I can't see one document. So, I ain't about to talk about it, especially based off of one side says. what it is, because you look at them documents and it say something totally different. I don't want nobody coming after me. So all the hustlers used to go to the high schools and mess with 15 and 17-year-olds, and the hustlers was in their 20s, common occurrence in New York City in the 80s. That occurred all over the country because that happened in Detroit. A lot of older people, a lot of older guys messed with younger women in high school. And that's why, like, when I was in high school, what I thought was very interesting, when I was in high school, it was a guy who was interning. I remember we called him Beowulf. I can't even think of his name, but I remember we read the story Beowulf, and so we started calling him Beowulf. But he was like a guy, he had like a whole bunch of hair and stuff, but that was like the novel he was going over. But he was interning. And when it came time to like hire, they wouldn't let him because they said he was too close to our age. So we were like, I had to be like 11th or 12th grade, maybe I was in 12th grade. But yeah, they were like, it really is some 17 and 18-year-olds. So no. So they wouldn't let him, like, they didn't hire him. And he told me like that was the reason, because he came to our graduation and he was telling me like, yeah, I'm like, why didn't you come work to school? And he was like, no, because we're too close in age, so they don't want. But it was another young lady, she interned in the same English class and she got hired. So it's a stereotype like that, something with the guys, they not even gonna try to put in that situation. That's why they're all shocked, and a lot of women get all this leniency when they find out that the woman was messing with a middle school person, because there is a double standard when it comes to that. Forever T said that's global and common things in the island. It is. And so how do you reconcile that, having this discussion? How do you reconcile that when there are a lot of people that were in relationships when they were 16 and the person was 20 and they don't feel like they were taken advantage of? And some people have married those people and they're still married to them to this day. How do you feel about that? Like, even in the South, you can go get married. They was marrying you off at like 14, 15, and you were like with an older person 9 times out of 10, and it was what they could take care of you and you can have a family. Like, it was never about age, wasn't really a thing that they thought about. So how do you take what was okay back then? Taking it from anybody ain't never been okay, but how do you take what from back then? Because I don't think Jay-Z's, the guy that's claiming that Jay-Z is the daddy or whatever, his daddy, I don't think he said he took advantage of her. I think, didn't he say they like messed with each other, they were together or something? I haven't read his story or heard his story, but how do you reconcile that when that was something that happened? 16-year-old with a 20-year-old, 15-year-old with a 19-year-old or whatever. How do you reconcile that and place those standards in today's world? Early morning vibe said, man, my head must have been in the sand because I didn't know any of this was happening. You was at church, girl. You was there on Sunday morning, vacation Bible school in the summertime. They changed some laws because so many young guys were catching cases, i.e. 18, 16. They were students, saw a lot of that in Cali. Yeah, they changed the law here in Michigan. They have like the Romeo and Juliet. That's what they'll call it. Because literally you can have you'll have parents that get pissed off and find out their 16-year-old is having relations, and they'll go report it. And then you got an 18-year-old going to jail. And they were literally in a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. So that was a sticky situation. I think it was a one night stand. Okay. Fine 9J said allegedly it's 2 adult children that was or is seeking DNA testing from Jay, but I'm unsure if the alleged daughter has gained the proof she saw for. So what out there? I haven't followed it again, so you guys know more than me, and you'll have to be the authorities on this. What authority do they have to make him go take a DNA test and they're adults? Like, what authority do you have to make someone? So I had an interesting case. I ain't gonna say their names. I'm on the play. I think I did. Where I have a friend whose husband passed away, and when he passed away, two adults went to probate court, and they said that they were the kids of them. Now, mind you, this man is like died at like 90. Okay. So you're talking about 60 and 70-year-olds coming forward saying that was my daddy. And when they came forward and they were saying like that was my daddy, they were trying to get the courts to force his kids that they knew were his to do DNA tests. And the court threw that out. Like immediately. Because that's all they had was to be able to swab the mouth of the kids the bio kids that they knew were his. So they were trying to get the court to make them swab so they can know that was their. And he had a couple of dollars. So they probably were doing it more so they can say that they are heirs, once he passed away. But the court threw it out. I can't remember what law was argued, but I know it wasn't right. It ain't sound right to me. How you gonna make somebody swab their mouth? So I'm just wondering. And that may not be in every state. They may say that they let you go ahead and swab somebody's mouth. I don't know. Work in progress said if the mom received government benefits, that may be reason to force it to get the money back. So ain't no statute of limits. Well, I guess it wouldn't be because some people owe child support till they die. Because I mean, yeah, sometimes even when the kids are adults, if you owe back, but that's if you owe back pay though, right? If she didn't put him on the birth, so this is the issue. From my understanding, she didn't put him on the birth certificate. She put some other man on the birth certificate. So, and then the man took a DNA test or something and he found out he wasn't a daddy. Or maybe it was something like somehow this man was supposedly the father and then found out he wasn't daddy from what I read, the little bit that I read. So I don't see how the government would be involved in that. Now, if she put him down there and she was like on some type of, the state can come after you personally when they're minors and they're taking care of your minors. But how do you really come back when some kid is 30 years old and be like, oh yeah, we just swabbed your mouth and we paid for your mother's labor and delivery and gave her some food stamps in the 90s. So now we're going to make you pay it back. I don't know how that's going to work. Tracy said they better try 23andMe if they can be linked to a family that way. That's what the authorities do now. They get access to those databases and they'll find your cousin, they'll find your half brother, and then they'll find the lineage, and that's how they'll find out who some of these cold cases are. I don't know. QT1 said, yes, the guy who raised him always knew he wasn't the father from what I understand. So he has someone to take care of him. And so then you have another twist. At least where I'm at, sometimes you can be imputed as the father. So for instance, if you consistently have raised someone up until a certain age or whatever, sometimes they won't allow you to denounce that you're the father and you still got to take care of them. So it depends on how your law. It's a lot of laws on that because what the government does is they try to protect themselves. That's just like if you're married and you decide to have an affair on your husband and you get pregnant. That is still your husband's baby under the law. Why? Because if you have a baby during the marriage, that is a baby of the marriage. That's how the law is. And the point of those types of laws is the government is aware that more often than not, when there is a mother and a father in the home, you don't have government assistance. You're not leaning on the government to pay for you. So that's a stability for them. So if you have a father that knows that the person cheated on them and is like, well, I don't care if you want to be the daddy. This is my baby. It ain't nothing you can do about it. They can say, this is my baby. You are not allowed to get a paternity test. It's a wrap. Because in theory, if you were born and you were married, that is that person's baby. So all these people that's like been separated for 17 years, 20 years, and be like, oh, out of sight, out of mind. Let that woman have a baby. You gonna be the daddy. The entire board of 23andMe resigned because of some violations with people's personal information being accessed without consent. I believe it, Chevelle Miller. I think it takes a lot for people, even when it comes to crimes. Like, you have what's called the lien system. So in the lien system, it'll have like warrants and arrests and all of that. And they had to put limitations on that as well, where you if as an officer you had to put all your credentials in there and say why you were going into the lien system, because people would just do it because they want to know, look, I saw my man, he was in license plate XX5522, can you run that for me? Calling a brother to go run somebody's plate to try to figure out who the girl is they were messing with. It was a lot of misuse and abuse of it. So a lot of times with these situations where they're privy and they have access to personal information, you do have to put safeguards on it. Starfish said, we have a boy 17 from the UK who met a girl 16 in Dubai. They had sex, but her parents waited until they were back in UK, then reported him to the authority. He has been sentenced to 1 year. That's about, yeah. Is that fair? I can see not getting kids why, but Jay-Z, why wouldn't he want to take it? It's not whether he want to take it or not. He don't have to. So I mean, but I see the other side as well. If you're out here windmilling and you're doing all this PR with this young girl, why not do it with this boy that keeps saying that you the daddy and you messed with his mama? Why not clear your name from that standpoint? Some people feel that way. But he may feel like he got enough problems. Shoot, he trying to keep his house together. He being accused of something heinous right now. Because I haven't heard anything of this man trying to say that he took advantage of his mom. I mean, I haven't heard that allegation. But this 13-year-old making these type of allegations is I can't imagine somebody coming home and saying that, like, oh yeah, I was accused, and it's all over the internet, of me messing with somebody that's 13, even though obviously his wife wasn't nowhere to be found when all this stuff was allegedly occurring. That's still a lot for a household to have to deal with. And so he got other problems. He like, listen, don't be trying to jump on me and compound my problems I got already at home. Let me handle this, okay? Let me get through this first. You said all Jay-Z's kids have that faith. A lot of men don't show up to CS court. They will declare him as father automatically. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I've never heard of that. I know what happens is you have the option of, if you didn't sign the birth certificate or sign for paternity at birth, and somebody does file for child support and all of that, and there's no, you have no documentation or affidavit of parentage, what they will do is you can voluntarily sign it, or they'll set you up for a DNA test. So I've never heard of that they just name you as, I guess if they can name you as the dad at a Department of Human Services office, they can try to say you the dad, because you give them a name, even though paternity is not established. Department of Human Services will bring the case on behalf of the kid. They don't care if you want to or not. And then what'll happen is they'll say, well, you just waive it and you sign and agree you the daddy, and then we'll set up child support and all of that. Or if you don't agree, then they send you to go get a DNA test. So that's how it goes to where I am. Can he be charged with the R word with all these years later with the guy's mom deceased? I don't know. I don't know if he could bring anything on behalf of the estate, because everything is hearsay. I mean, I guess she's unavailable. She's an unavailable witness because she's dead, but I've never heard of that. So, but I also have never really heard or dealt with half these statutes that they have now in New York either. So I don't know the answer to that question, but That'll be a good research project. I don't know. Bama said, my cousin had twins with a married man. He went to put himself on child support and they closed the case stating legitimacy had already been established. That's in GA. Wow. Yep. With a married woman. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yep. That's how it is when you have a baby and you're married, regardless. And it's a lot of women out here that's married on paper and they haven't seen their husband in decades. But you meet a lot of people like that, and they'll say like, outside out of mind. I never thought about it. I'm like, but what if something happens to you? You know, the person they gonna call is your wife, even if you might be in a coma. Can you imagine not being with somebody for 10 years? You'd have made money, you've lived your life, you got all of this stuff, and then when something happens to you and you can't make no decisions, your next of kin is your spouse and they call your wife and peel her up off of the beach in California to come to Georgia, and then she got to make the decisions whether to pull the plug, whether to do this, and be like Diary of a Bad Black Woman. That's what pretty much happened there. They was on the cusp of getting a divorce, but because he couldn't talk, she came in like, I'm the wife. That's cool that he with her and he think he planned on marrying her, but I'm still the wife. The divorce ain't final. And that's the person that gotta make your decisions. See, that's the type of stuff I think about. If we ain't gonna work out, then it's a wrap. You're not gonna be responsible. I'll be in an old folk home. You been and took all my money and you and your new bra living off of me. That's the type of stuff I think about. So all of that out of sight, out of mind, it don't matter. I don't agree with that. I think you should handle your business and go get a divorce. That's just what it is. If not, and is it gonna be painful? I'm sure. But to do that, and then you got some women, they don't want a divorce because I think that regardless to whoever the man is with, they know that they can't marry him. So they still kind of number one. So people have their quirky reasons that I've heard when I did family law for waiting a decade to get a divorce, but it all sounds stupid to me. I'm like, girl, because that happened. Like I got so many stories. So many stories. I had someone that I know that went through that where she was separated from her husband for 30 years. Literally, they never got a divorce. It was like 30 years. He was living with a woman for 20 years. So they had a house, they had all of that stuff. He ends up has a stroke. He goes in the hospital. They call because this is just a girlfriend. So she has no say because you're just a girlfriend. So they call the kids. He did have kids. So they call the kids, but the kids are by his wife. So the wife came and she stepped in and he did end up passing away. And when he passed away, the wife handled all the funeral stuff and everything, and the wife couldn't do nothing. The girlfriend couldn't even do nothing. It was like she couldn't even come to the funeral. She wasn't acknowledged, obviously, in the obituary. The house belonged to the husband, so the wife took the house and evicted her up out the house. Like, I've seen some bad things happen in these situations, and so I just think it's ridiculous to even put yourself in those situations. Yes, I had an aunt that husband left her 20 years ago and he had a whole nother family and he passed and my aunt wouldn't allow his girlfriend to attend the funeral. Listen, we might know the same people, Kelly. Because I was in there like, whoa, the drama of it all. It was, couldn't even get past that it was a loss because it was so much drama that was surrounded by it. Yes, it was. It was a good movie. And De'Ara, you better get your house in order. You better get your house in order. Heather said, I immediately got a healthcare power of attorney. In North Carolina, the courts require you wait 1 year after filing for divorce. The power of healthcare attorney was the answer for me. You said, Heather, that won't be me. Heather said, you won't catch me slipping. I hear you, Heather. Handle your businesses. You said not divorcing a man to stop him from marrying another woman is weird. It's people that do it. Like in their mind, they really don't want to let it go. Like it's too final for a lot of people. So it's like at the end of the day, regardless, okay, you can seem like you're so happy with somebody else, but one thing I know, she can't marry him because she's still married to me. I've heard that too. So you said to me that was childish. If the wife wasn't in his life for years and also didn't file the divorce, I think the girlfriend should be allowed to come to the funeral, in my opinion. That's from Lovejoy. So let me tell you another story about a celebrity that I knew. So I ain't gonna say their name. But this person passed away, and him and his wife were together for decades. This is an older couple. And of course, the wife knew about the other woman. And the other woman, this man had a lot of money. He was in Detroit. He had a couple of houses. Okay. He had a couple of houses. And one of the houses, he had his girlfriend that he had been with for years. So, and I know it may sound weird, but I know a few people that are like that, where they were literally what you call a side chick for decades. Like, they were fine with that. I don't know if it's they just don't want to come home to nobody. They were available when they needed them to be. But obviously the wife knows that they'll get their son to call the house, because that was before cell phones and all of that. So when he ended, she stayed with him the whole time. Probably she helped him get to where he got. So she was like, I ain't divorcing him. Forget that. You ain't never marrying him. And he came home, and all of that, but he had a whole side chick. And for like 30, like, it was crazy. Like, you had a whole nother life, basically. And when he passed away, she just evicted her out the house. She took all the stuff and evicted her out the house. I don't think she stopped her from coming to the funeral. But I mean, do you think you about to get acknowledged in an obituary or something? Like, no, you're not. You said Nesto married Shirley Strawberry after all his shenanigans. Y'all don't want hood mayor New York City to get married. I think my brother has been separated from his wife for over 50 years. I believe it, Glorious. It's not, these are not, just because it's not your story doesn't mean it's not somebody else's, So, and I've seen it on several occasions, and people will say they never got it. Like, I know somebody who said that they never divorced their wife because they knew that was the person who was there for them before they came up. And if something happened to them, even though they was with a whole nother chick for decades, it was like, I would want my wife to take care of my funeral expenses. I want my wife to get my policy. She had my kids. So you get some people that's like that. So some of that is what some of these women will accept. That's why if somebody says that they were married, you ask, are you guys still together? As in, are you divorced? And I'm not talking about a spiritual divorce. I'm not talking about, oh, we've been in separate houses for 30 years. That's nice. Do you have a document that has an order that says it's a final divorce decree and it's a raised seal? I'm going to need the raised seal from the court. Because the way they can talk around it, people will talk around it or whatever. Oh, I ain't talked to her in 20 years. Well, it shouldn't be no problem for you to divorce her then. Shouldn't be no contesting, right? I had a friend one time. I thought she was divorced. Okay. And then she got with a guy. And at first, the guy she got with said he never wanted to get married. Then he had some life experiences and he decided, oh yeah, because she told me she referred to him as her ex-husband. So I really thought, like, I met her later on in life. So I didn't know her, like, through the whole process. And she came to me like, I need your help. Can you help me get a divorce? I'm like, what? I was like, I thought you was already. That's a whole nother story. I gotta get a divorce because this guy I've been with, we've been together like 5 years. He didn't want to get married. Now he talking about marriage. So now everybody thinking you divorced and you gotta hurry up and try to get divorced because now this man trying to marry you. It is too much. Why you put yourself through this? Huh? Why do y'all need to put yourself through all of this? You don't gotta do this to yourself. You said Pam is talking about my folks. You said I know side chicks, common law spouses. Listen, get in the car and they like, can you call this number for me? You gotta call and ask to talk to the guy and stuff because she want to talk to him. Been there, done all that when I was younger. Allegedly, Kevin Hartley's ex-wife, it was said she was on the paperwork instead of the current wife. This is alleged rumors that has nothing to do with me. Oh, I don't know nothing about that, Kevin. You know, I already know I probably ain't your favorite person. Say that a divorce is your authority. Listen, don't try to talk me into believing that her living in Kentucky and you living in Tennessee is good enough. No, I'm gonna need a paper. I've been and went like, what state did you guys live in? You know me. I've been and looked online. Like it only costs $20 to get a certified copy. They can get it to you between 5 to 7 business days, or you can pick it up at the court and get it immediately. I mess around and have instructions for you. I've been to a few funerals where the man passed and out comes a whole other family, woman and children. The drama was crazy. Common law can be recognized as a union if entered in a state where it was legal before it was dissolved. You have to show evidence. Okay. Let me see. What was super? Let me see. Overthoughts. You said something was super traumatic. See how we go all on a tangent? I don't know why we talking about marriages and folk having side chicks and babies. Oh, we was talking about Jay-Z's son. Okay. Keontae said, my parents were legally married for 8 years, even though the marriage lasted 6 months. My mom had 2 kids during this period. I didn't find out about the legal marriage being so long until I was 19. Oh, wow. Wow. He said, my Aunt Mary separated and got a boyfriend. That's from Mr. Show thing. Tracy, you know these people got spirit. Y'all watch Sister Wives. And they got spiritual marriages and divorces. You know they be coming up with that stuff. I signed the papers, but I don't know how to follow up or check to see if it's final. Is that what you're saying, Overthoughts? Girl, you better go online. What state you in? It'll tell you, because what will happen is, and this is, if you file for divorce and you don't show up and you don't finalize it or anything, the court will dismiss your case. They'll do it without prejudice, so you can come back and refile, but they don't just let you linger on the docket for a long time. So you might want to check that out. When my great grandfather passed, a woman sat in the back crying. When they went to close the box, that lady went off. We were like, who that? Especially down south, honey. You look around. Every time I go to a funeral down south, because my dad's from Arkansas, we go to a funeral down there, I'm looking like, who look like us? You know, you start looking at who look like y'all. It's like they look just like you with gold teeth. That's about it. I'm like, is that us? Is that one of us? Because you always, the older I get, the more I find out about like more kids in my, not, like more kids in like my family, like either my uncle. All of a sudden I see pictures, or like people will start tagging me on Facebook or something, and I'm like calling my dad like, who is this? Or they inboxing me or sending friend requests. I'm like, who is this? Oh, that's your cousin. See, your uncle that passed away, he had her. She was out when he was in the service over in Germany. You're like, what? What? I get a new relative every year, man. And I'm not talking about from like somebody having a baby. They be full grown by the time I figure out, like, oh, you one of us? Oh, okay. You like, dang. All of them. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Like, did you know that it's supposed to be another brother or sister over there in Louisiana? You're like, what? These Southern men will have a whole family and the side piece plays their position very well. The family don't know nothing until the funeral. Yep, they sure do. And probably watched it, with their own parents and family. Because don't think that these women didn't know what their husbands were doing. Like, they knew what their husbands were doing. Sometimes they was like, that check come here, she ain't getting much. So when he come home with that check, I give him $20 and that's it. They at home cooking, cleaning. They ain't gotta work. They get new cars and houses every 2 years. And they like, shoot, you ain't about to mess up my flow. You just getting crumbs compared to what I'm getting. And they be content with it. But then you got to look at it like back in the day too. They didn't necessarily marry them for love. They marry him like they would be like, I'm interested in your daughter, and go to your father or something. And your father be like, all right, where you work at? What you plan on doing with yourself? You got health insurance? You just had certain criteria and they was like, okay. And then like in the church, you go court for a couple of times, it'll be 3 of y'all together. Next thing you know, they like, y'all better get married because y'all gonna be liking each other, and it's better to marry than to burn. And then they go get married. Like it wasn't about them loving them in the first place. So maybe them going outside of that, they didn't care. They was like, whatever, I got my side dude too, so we can both do it. Marry for a lifestyle. Absolutely. That's why you get so many people now. They like, oh, next time I'm not marrying for love, I'm marrying for money. That's why people say stuff like that. That's what they were doing back in the day. It was about if they could be a family. Is this a person to have kids by, to extend your legacy? Is this a person that'll take care of you and your family? That was the criteria. They would grow to love you. Like they'll say, initially, I ain't really love. I've heard that a lot. People that are like very successful too, like people that are neurosurgeons. I've seen politicians, people that are kind of in my circle, and a lot of them, when I hear the stories, it's like, I didn't really like them when I married them. They look at their future. See, we the ones that's like, oh, I get butterflies when I see them. And then when you turn around and you got like Risa Tisa, you like, oh my God, I'm so shocked. No, you married because of how you feel, and feelings are fleeting. Being in love is fleeting. You are not going to be in love every day. It's loving someone is a choice. And so they figured that out back in the day. So I'm going to choose someone that can take care of me at all stages of my life. And if I have kids, I don't have to be getting on food stamps. And that's how they make their decisions. So if they went and they got a little something, because half the time they probably weren't really giving them none anyway, they would go around the corner. They'd be messing with people across the street. Wasn't it like Ocho Cinco or somebody? Somebody had a reality show and they like found out they daddy lived across the street or some crazy stuff like that. You had like and it was like across the street from his family, I believe. I hope I'm getting the story right, because I don't want him coming after me. Like, that never happened. I'm just going off memory, because he had a reality show a long time ago. But he had a lot of issues. He used to do a whole lot of crying and snot, and I remember that in the reality show. No. Pam, what do you think about the common people with the common law of marriage? They're going to have some common results. They ain't going to have no... They going to be fighting over the stuff that I told you that people are fighting over. It was Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens. That's not Ocho Cinco. They not the same people. Okay, it was Terrell Owens. Okay. Scratch that. I don't want nobody's mama and daddy talking about you messing up my household. That never happened. You said that's T.O. Okay. One of them had a dang on show. Okay, it was a long time ago. Chad Johnson is out, y'all. Thank you so much. I really did think they was the same people, though. That's why it's so funny. Okay, my bad. Jay-Z lawyer in effect for just not filing the 12. Well, no, he has the 12B is his first response to the complaint. He hasn't filed his response to the complaint yet, so that'll be his response. That is funny to me because I was so serious about it. I was like, he had a reality show and all of that. I know he used to cry all the time. He had snot coming down his face. He was trying to work out to be somebody and get back in the league. Yeah. Oren said, Terrell, is it Terrell or Terrell? I think he said Terrell. Had a fine side piece on that show that was the assistant. Wait a minute. You said yes, he like a girl and found out it was his half sister. Oh, that sucks. That's why you gotta know who your people are. That's messed up. Lee said I had a computer. Let me look them up before I get off. Let me see. Ocho Cinco picture. Okay, let me see. Here he go. Let me pull him up. Because I don't know how I mixed y'all up. Sorry, Ocho Cinco. I take it all back. Okay. And then let's see. Terrell Owens. They kind of look alike. That's why. And see them together. That's them together. I'm like, I know they got a picture together. So. All right, I need to get off here before I embarrass myself. Oh, Jesus. You T.O.'s daddy lived across the street and he never knew until he was an adult. Thank you to God experience. That's the story I was trying to relay there. See what happened when you tell other people's stories? You start mixing up people. All right, y'all. I got it now. I got it. Oh, God. I'm not saying we all looking like me, Crumbs. I'm saying they looked alike to me. They remind me of each other. Maybe it's the chocolate in the bald head. I don't know. Oh, Lord Jesus. Christine, no. What's going on? I hope you feel better. All right, y'all. I'm about to get off here for real. Oh, Lord, I'm getting into storytelling of other people, and I'm getting the wrong people confused. I don't need them type of troubles in my life. All right, y'all. Thank you so much, for making this a very, very fun live. You guys are the best. Nobody can out intellect you. Thank you guys so much for all of the support that you've given and for meeting my goals today. I appreciate that. And we'll be watching the docket as we always do when it comes to Jay-Z and Diddy, and we'll see what happens next because I'm sure there'll be a response. And thank you guys for laughing with me. Thank you guys for bringing joy and happiness and laughter to those people that are going through. That's what it's about. I appreciate it. You guys have a great night.